Hi, I'm Lars from All About Samsung, and today we're gonna have a first hands-on of the brand new Huawei P30 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. So here I got the Galaxy S10 Plus in its ceramic white version and the P30 Pro in the black version. Both phones feature on the back side, on the first side, 3 cameras. One of them is an ultra wide angle lens, one of them is a tele zoom lens, and you do have an in-display fingerprint sensor on both phones. Where are the differences? Well, let's find out in the first comparison. Let's go.
On the front, both smartphones rely on a large OLED display. The display of the Galaxy S10 Plus with a 6.4 inch on paper is slightly smaller than the 6.47 inch display of the Huawei P30 Pro. What is striking is that Samsung uses a punch hole notch with dual cameras, while the P30 Pro uses a very small dewdrop notch. Both notches are a matter of taste. The punch hole notch may seem a ticking more interesting. The display of the S10 Plus with 3040 by 1440 pixels has much higher resolution than the display of the P30 Pro with only 2340 by 1080 pixels, whereby this doesn't make any difference in everyday life. With a naked eye, it's barely visible. If rumors go by, the display of the P30 Pro is manufactured by Samsung, by the way. Otherwise, the frame around the display of the P30 Pro is slightly wider than the frame of the S10 Plus. Both displays rely on curved glass on the front. A special feature is that the P30 Pro doesn't have an ear cup, but uses the display as a kind of speaker when making phone calls. So, according to Huawei, nobody can listen. If you turn the devices, you will notice a thin metal frame on both devices. On the P30 Pro, this is flattened on the upper side and also on the underside. This looks very chic. However, the Huawei P30 Pro with 8.4mm is much thicker than the Galaxy S10 Plus with 7.8mm, and the P30 Pro with 192 grams is much heavier than the S10 Plus with 175 grams. On the back, it becomes particularly exciting. At first glance, both smartphones rely on a triple camera, but this is actually deceptive. While Samsung relies on a triple camera, LED and a heart rate sensor, Huawei speaks of a quad camera. That's not quite the case, but it sounds better. Huawei uses a triple camera and a time of flight sensor below the LED. More about the cameras later. First, hardware and software. Both devices rely on absolute high-end. Hardly anyone is interested in benchmarks anymore, so in brief, under the hood of the S10 Plus beats an Exynos 9820 Octa with 8mm manufactured, while on the P30 Pro there's a Kirin 980 which was already found on the Mate 20 Pro, powerful and efficient and manufactured in 7nm. In addition, both devices have 8GB of RAM, special editions are not included. And in Germany, Samsung offers the S10 Plus only with 512GB of internal memory. The P30 Pro instead is available with 128 or 256GB. Both memories are expandable, but Samsung uses the much more common microSD standard, for which 1TB cards already exist. Huawei uses proprietary NM cards with a maximum of 256GB, so I'd say Samsung has an advance here. For the batteries, there's no big difference between the both devices. The Galaxy S10 Plus has a 4100mAh battery, the P30 Pro has a 4200mAh battery. Both can charge wireless and also backwards wireless, so you can charge your accessories, as an example, wirelessly. Huawei, however, has a significantly higher charging speed on the cable. But what has to be said, with my S10 Plus with the Exynos 9820, the battery life is, I'd say, okay, but nothing more. While on the Mate 20 Pro last year with the Kirin 980 and its 4200mAh battery, I already got an excellent battery life. Now on the P30 Pro, you have a lower display resolution, so you can hope at least for a good battery life here. The software is based on Android 9.0 Pie with its own user interface. Samsung has the better gesture for the app drawer as an example, Huawei the better gesture control overall. In general, it's the taste that decides the software. I would like to highlight two features here. One is the fingerprint sensor. Both manufacturers rely on fingerprint sensors in the display. Samsung is using an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor for the first time. Huawei uses an optical sensor as found on the Mate 20 Pro. An ultrasonic sensor has the advantage that it can recognize the 3D structure of the fingers and can also scan wet fingers as an example without any problems. The scanner, however, is not error-free. Even with the last update, the recognition rate is not perfect to me. Huawei had a useful recognition found on the Mate 20 Pro and wants to have it improved on the P30 Pro. To me, it was nice, but unfortunately, both Samsung and Huawei do security without a Face ID-like recognition. Both have face recognition with the front camera, but this is not as secure as the Face ID or the recognition even found on the Mate 20 Pro. Unfortunately, I really do like this feature on the Mate 20 Pro or on the iPhone XS, and it's missing on the S10 Plus and on the P30 Pro. Now to the main topic, cameras. Huawei was the showstopper of 2018 here. They showed a mighty camera for the P20 Pro. And since March 2018, the P20 Pro has been in first place with a DxO mark. In the meantime, Samsung has been able to catch up with the S10 Plus, but only in parts. In night mode, as an example, the S10 Plus is still behind, but the front camera is stronger and the video function is an example as well. But still, the S10 Plus was only able to catch up to the P20 Pro. Now comes the Huawei P30 Pro, and here you have to go into detail with the cameras. First, the main cameras. Samsung has an improved sensor with 12 megapixel dual pixels and a changeable open aperture of f1.5 or f2.4. Huawei relies on a newly developed, significantly larger sensor with a new red, blue, yellow instead of the more common or normal conventional red, blue, green matrix. 40 megapixels and an aperture of f1.6. The sensor should be even stronger than the sensor found on the Mate 20 Pro or P20 Pro. At least in terms of hardware, Huawei is way ahead. Both also have a wide angle sensor, 20 megapixels for Huawei and 60 megapixels for Samsung. Both distort towards the edges, so you have to wait and see. But you don't need to test for one feature, the zoom. Huawei wins at first sight. While Samsung relies on a double optical zoom with a weak open aperture, Huawei has a 5 times optical zoom, which in combination with the strong main sensor allows a 10 times lossless zoom. A short explanation: a prism directs the light into the device through lenses arranged transversely, so that you do have a zoom lens without having a bulky body of the camera. The result is absolutely outstanding and very impressive. If we compare it to the S10 Plus and see that you do have the ultra wide angle, the normal mode and the zoom, you can see a very big difference in terms of results between the S10 Plus and the P30 Pro. In fact, the zoom feature is completely stunning. Huawei also wants to have improved on the video quality. The large sensor should enable a particularly high light sensitivity. In general, Huawei wants to have a clear improvement here. Samsung has always been ahead and has a much better software in terms of camera at first sight. Samsung was still superior in terms of autofocus as an example, and maybe in terms of image dynamics that can be seen on the display, but you have to wait and see and test about the camera performance. I would assume that maybe Huawei will top the DxO mark by maybe 5 points, maybe 7 points, maybe 10 points. The software was noticeable good with the zoom. Those who know long focal length know that the smallest movements of the hand can cause blurred pictures. With the P30 Pro, the zoom periscope and the main sensor are added together and the camera shake is kept in check. Oh, and the P30 Pro has a time of flight sensor. This is only found on the S10 5G, but with Huawei it's already found in the normal flagship. The sensor measures basically the time it takes for light to fall on the sensor and can thus perfectly perceive distances. This is perfect for the depth of field on the camera, so you can make a perfectly blurred or background on pictures. And for the front camera, Huawei now uses a 32 megapixel, but only one 32 megapixel front camera that takes good pictures, but this Galaxy S2 Plus uses two front cameras, and in fact I'd say the S10 Plus is already in front over here.
So this was the first comparison of the Huawei P30 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. I have to admit that it's quite impressive what Huawei established with the P series. While with the P20 Pro they announced maybe the best camera of 2018, now with the P30 Pro they're doing a step further by improving the main sensor, by adding a 10 times optical zoom or 5 times optical and 10 times hybrid zoom, and adding an ultra wide angle lens. On the S10 Plus you do have an almost as impressive ultra wide angle, but at least the zoom lens is not as good as the zoom found on the P30 Pro. The in-display fingerprint scanner, on the other hand, is, I'd say, a little bit superior to the one on the P30 Pro on the S10 Plus, because it's using ultrasonic technique, while the P30 Pro is using a visual optical fingerprint sensor. Anyway, it's hard to choose between these two phones. I would say the camera is a bit better on the P30 Pro. On the S10 Plus, I'd say the display is superior, and the front camera is, I'd say, at least slightly better than the one on the P30 Pro. Anyway, I hope you liked the first comparison. If you have any questions regarding these two phones, just let me know below in the comments. I'm Lars from All About Samsung. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.